Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Biz Dev Podcast, the podcast about developing your business. I'm David Baxter, your host, and I am joined today by Gary Voigt. I have some trivia for you, listeners out there. Did you know that ChatGPT, the G stands for Gary? Did you know that? That's right. He was an engineer in the whole thing. And am I saying that wrong? Am I overstating that, Gary?
Engineer might be a stretch. I was the
Oh,
inspiration. Yeah. I'm still waiting for my checks, though. I guess once they get out of beta and go public and start making it the real money, I think Microsoft owes
if
me
Bing
something at
starts
this
saying
point.
anything
But
weird, it's because it's Gary's personality. That's what it is. That's the problem.
yeah, I mean,
All
so
right.
many questions.
So, well, he gets really tired of typing. His fingers hurt. All the answers. It's not really AI. It's just Gary. Anyway, we are joined by English Sall. She is the CEO and co-founder of Cymantix, and we're going to learn a bit about that in a moment. But first, we're going to talk about what we always talk about, which is AI, because that's all anyone talks about.
It's the newer what we always talk about. And since you already
That's
brought up
true.
Chat GPT, since I'm an expert, I'm just going to bow out and let you guys discuss it a little bit.
Since you're the one who just types all day, do you need to go now so you can type some more queries that people are asking you?
I have robots that do that.
Nice. That's the real AI. AI is usually a guy named Al in the back. Anyway, it's funny. This topic is so hot right now. So I was given this little bitty speech that sounds more important than it was. I was at NC State last night, and they had an entrepreneurship thing, and I was there giving a little. What was the question? The question, I had 10 minutes to talk about what would I change in my career looking back, right? Because now I'm old, and I love that because that officially means I'm old because they want to hear what I think of 20 years later. But so afterwards we had a little QA, and a guy asked completely out of nowhere, "Hey, what do I think of ChatGPT?" Because they knew I was in tech. It's like it is just on the minds of everyone. So he just asked, and I, gave him my thoughts, but which you've all heard here already.
What were those thoughts?
My thoughts were that in 5 years, I believe that the internet will be very different than it is today because of what we're seeing now. I think we're in the very early stage of this, and what we're doing and playing around with now with Bing and whatever Google comes out with, Bard. I doubt it's actually called Bard when it's all done, but whatever they come out with, they're going to answer, right? There's just too much money in this. There's billions of dollars at stake. I mean, the CEO of Microsoft said, if we can steal just a few percent of that search, I'm trying to think of the right word. The search. It's not even the revenue. It's just like
the market space.
Like if Bing grabs 2% market share, 2, 3, 4% market share, that's the word I was looking for, they will gain billions of dollars. That's how much money is at stake. And so Microsoft's coming out swinging. And because they're like, we've invested, we picked a hot horse in OpenAI, and they're coming out swinging, and they're like, we're going to make Google dance, and we want everyone to know that we made them dance. I think that's the greatest CEO quote ever, because it's just so ballsy.
I think I just read that the APIs for both ChatGPT and OpenAI were released now. So we're going to see tons of businesses pop up in the next month and a half, 2 months that are all AI related.
Well, and our clients are asking about it. I've got 2 clients that have asked me in the last week, how can we use this AI silliness? I mean, because they don't really know what it is. They just know it's hot, and they know it can write cool emails, right? I mean, it's nuts.
Well, our guest English here, she's a self-proclaimed data enthusiast. So I'm wondering how AI and ChatGPT and stuff like that might filter into her career.
Well, it's been a hot topic at Cymantix as well, and it's something that we've been asked about a lot. And I think that number one, I think it's a great conversation to have, just because I think it opens up so many avenues of what the future of AI could look like, what the future for us of search and information retrieval could look like. I think within my company, it's a cool tool. It's a cool feature. It's something that we can plug in to what we're already doing. I do think that, someone gave me a great metaphor of where it is right now. And it is akin to, in my mind, kind of like self-driving cars, right? Like we're in this moment where this is really cool, but there's, the kind of fringe cases where it's like, oh wait, we still need to put some guards around this. We still need to put some kind of boxes around what we can and can't do, or what is most useful, what is most relevant to the tool itself, right? So you looked at like self-driving cars. It's like, wow, everybody wants to do this, and then you see a bunch of recalls, right? Of like, ooh, maybe we hit the gas on that really quickly. So I think that there's a lot there, and I think there's a lot to be done. I think that more than anything, I'm fascinated by just the conversations going on, right? Like you see how they banned it from a lot of universities, right? They're like, you can't use ChatGPT. And so to me, it's sort of like, what should we be doing with it versus what can we be doing with it?
The self-driving car is a great analogy. I've not
really
heard
is.
that before, but that's a really good, and especially just for me, since I'm kind of a visual person, we've all seen the visualization of the car and then it putting little polygon boxes around people walking by, and you kind of have that heads up display of what the AI is trying to do there with the self-driving. And you mentioning putting boxes around what it should and shouldn't do. Yeah, that's a really good visual to put in your head.
When I think it's even more apropos, because if you go 5 years ago, I don't know, whenever the self-driving car thing exploded, everyone thought that we were going to be all in our steering wheelless cars within 5 years. And because they were making such great strides, right? Cars were driving themselves around little courses, and they're like, man, this is going really, really well. And then they realized a few years later, that last 10% of getting that right, of working in the snow and driving through a neighborhood where kids are playing,
Any
where
unpredictable conditions.
all of that insanity is really, really, really hard. And the consequences of failing, even if you're 99% right, like imagine a world where you have your car you walk out to every morning has no steering wheel because it just drives itself.
Mm-hmm.
But today you live in Utah, like Siwa, one of our project managers, and there's a foot of snow on the ground. And the car just says, no, I'm not driving today. Sorry, I can't do it. Well, then what do you do? Like a human, like there's an emergency and you need to get out there. We can figure out how to drive in the snow. It might not be a good idea, but we do it all the time. But the car is going to say, sorry, I'm not going to do that. So that last 1%, and it's wrong and it hits the kid, it's over, right? And now they're saying we might be 10 years, if ever. Now there are cars. If you're in Phoenix, you can get a driverless car to drive you around. You can get a taxi because Phoenix has perfect weather for this kind of experiment. Now, bringing this back to the AI stuff, I think it's the same kind of thing. Part of it is really interesting because we're seeing things like the AIs. If you read those stories, we've talked about it before, where Bing's guy, Sydney, just goes nuts and starts professing love to the people. You're going to start seeing less and less of that craziness because they're going to put more and more guardrails up, right? And so some of that's kind of sad because the crazy teenager who's been reading fan fiction is going to be locked away because that's just weird. But you're going to see that person, that persona, and I shouldn't say person because they're machines and they don't have feelings. It's really easy. Like I was telling my son about this. I don't think I've mentioned this before. I was telling him about the Bing story, and he's like, "How do you know it's not alive?" And I was like, because it's not, because it's just a program that's really good at putting words together. That's all it is. And it can seem very smart. But to someone who's not technical, just wait until you've got political issues happening because AI bot told you this. This is all fake news, right? I mean, that's coming. That is certainly coming.
That's already happening in certain parts of the world.
Yeah.
I'm sure my family is probably part of that world. Anyway, what is interesting to me, though, is when I think it's worth clarifying. When I say that the ground underneath us is shifting, it's important to back up and see what the web is now. Mm-hmm. Right now, you go to the web and you search for anything. And what happens is you go to Google, because 92% of all people go to Google. You go there and you type in your sentence. And what Google does is it goes and finds sites that may or may not answer your question. So over the last 10, 20 years, the way you make money is you find ways to make your website answer questions so Google finds you and says, this is the right answer, right? That's how everyone is incentivized to use the web. The whole web is built this way. Whether you're a tiny company or a huge one, you build your website so that Google will find you. Yeah. If you now are going to a chat box to ask a question and you never have to visit the site that gave you the answer, which is what all the Bings and Bards and stuff are doing right now, that means my incentivizing is now no longer there. So now why am I providing that? the web just changed dramatically. So that's what I mean when I say the web is changing under our feet. We just don't know what it looks like yet, because we're going to put those guardrails up, just like you said, English. We're going to put those guardrails up. And the sterilized version of these is coming out, where they're going to be very intelligent and very good at what they do, but they have very strong guardrails because we don't want them going nuts. But they're going to change it. I don't have to go visit that website. So now if I'm a company and I need someone to know about my product, this became a lot harder. This got a lot harder. Google opened 1 million doors that were never people didn't even know existed. And now those doors are going to start to close. And I'm very curious what that looks like. That's way beyond the conversation of what is AI. But how humans respond to AI is almost a more interesting topic to me. It's total conjecture, but it's still very interesting.
Wait, you said 92% of people use Google? Am I the only one that still asks Jeeves?
Oh my gosh.
Do you remember that?
Man,
oh my gosh.
That's as bad as you busting out a Zune joke. InfoSeek is what I still use. Yeah, you know what's funny? I switched mine. I use a thing called Waldo right now. I'm playing with a thing called Waldo, which has it uses Google as the search engine, but behind it you can really tailor your search. I haven't played with it all that much. I really like the design because it's super clean and it gets rid of a lot of the cruft that Google adds. But they have this whole thing where you can drill in deep. It's Waldo dot something. You can search it. We'll put it in the show notes.
Well, English, you mentioned your company earlier, Cymantix. And I know it's spelled a little different. It's Cymantix.
Correct.
Do you want to give us a little bit of information about yourself, your role in the company, what the company does?
Yeah, happy to. So I'm co-founder and CEO of the company. And really, I love this conversation about Google and search, because a lot of what we do is, walking next to search in a way. We're really more of an information retrieval company, and we build sense-making tools for the intelligence and defense space, mostly right now, to support mission operations. And so while, just a kind of a metaphor here is that, Google, Ask Jeeves, all of these, internet search companies, it's a very transactional interaction, right? You sort of say, I want the address to this restaurant. Here it is. It gives it to you. We're more interested in sort of the complexity of domain-specific information. And so what we do is we build visual information retrieval tools and also information aggregation tools to sort of help people have all the information that they're interested in one place, and then have the analytics behind that to make meaning out of that information and demonstrate the relationships between and within information.
What does that mean practically? I mean, that sounds really cool, but I have no idea what you just said.
Yeah.
Pretend I'm really dumb. It's not hard.
So let me give you an example. We work a little bit in the cyber intel space. And one of the problems that we've seen across the board is a lot of people in that space, a lot of the analysts, usually have, 25, 30 Google tabs open. There's an overwhelm. People have too many sources of information that they need to triage and assess too quickly in order to make a decision. And so what we do is we provide tools that allows them to see all of that information in one place. So instead of 45 Google tabs, it's all right there in one user interface. And we're able to demonstrate the relationships based on our sort of back-end contextual analytics. So looking at this document and relating it to this document and putting that in a visual search interface.
That sounds so incredible that I can't wrap my little brain around it totally. What I'm trying to figure out is, how did you come up with this? Like, you're the co-founder, so you had a partner of some sort, but this is not like, I want to open a coffee shop, or I make soap really good, right? Or I want to build websites. This is like, I'm going to change the internet and how everything is related.
This is, I watched Minority Report and The Matrix, and now I'm going to bring
That's right. And how do we make that real?
Tech here.
Yeah, basically we just watched Iron Man and we said, let's do this.
Perfect. Yes.
Yeah.
I still want the see-through phone that he has.
Exactly.
He just does this. Just send it all off. So where did this idea come from? I mean, I clearly understand the need for it, but where did the idea that, yeah, we can do this? Like, what is your background that says we can do this? This insurmountable problem, we got this.
Well, I really do appreciate that. I wish I could take the credit for the technology itself, but really that was my co-founder, Michael. And I met him when I was doing my postdoc in a lab at UNC, where I was doing a postdoc for biomedical and health informatics, and he was doing his doctorate in information retrieval. And he built this tool, and I saw it demoed in a lab meeting, and then became a huge fangirl and signed up for every single one of his human participatory studies. And basically one day just asked him, what do you want to do with this technology? Because when he demoed it to me, it looked like a map. It looked like a map of all the information that I needed to make a decision in a really convenient visual way. And I said, what are you going to do with this? And he said, I don't know. I think one day it would be cool to like figure out how to get this out into the world, maybe start a company. And I had a lot of coffee that morning, and I'm a super type A personality. And so I was like, great, let's go. I'm ready. Let's do this. And I think since then, what we really aligned on and what we came together on, myself and my co-founder, was that, technical innovations happen all the time. We live in a world where technical innovations are very commonplace, which is great and such a privilege. But I think what isn't as common is acts of service within technology. How do you build empathetic systems? How do you build empathetic interactions with technology? And I think convenience is a priority, and you notice when it's not there. So for us, we really aligned on this idea of making the complex simple and making it beautiful and making it delightful to interact with. And so we both came together because we felt overwhelmed. I feel like all the time I'm drowning in a sea of information, and Google doesn't give me enough. And yes, 92% of people do visit Google, but people barely leave the first page of those results.
And typically those are all ads, not
right. In fact, people barely go past result number 4.
You said something that made my mind cry a little bit. I want to understand what you were just saying. What is an empathetic system? I mean, I know what empathy is, but now you're using it in ways I don't have a clue what you just said. So what is an empathetic system? What does that mean?
I think in my mind, what an empathetic system is it prioritizes the interaction with the user versus just the technology itself. And so I think that with Google, don't get me wrong, I use Google all the time, and I need to know the name of this, or I want to know when, Cameron Diaz was born, and I get the answers that I want. But I think that there's more information out there than we can wrap our arms around. And when I want to design systems and when I want to design technology, I want it to meet the user where they are. I want to be able to say, I'm going to take your email and I'm going to take your notes and I'm going to take every PowerPoint that you've been sent on this topic, and you can upload it and put it in this system. And then also you can look at open source intelligence, or you can look at PubMed. So what we do is we aggregate that and we put it all in one place so that you're not constantly like, I think I remember I had this meeting and this, was mentioned, and here are my notes, or this email happened, or I want to know what's going on Twitter, or I want to know what's going on PubMed. That's how people interact with information. They go from one point to another point to over here, and we have to do the hard work of making meaning out of all of that. And what Cymantix does is we try and put that all in one place, and we make it very visual, and we show you what the relationship is between all of that information, and then really lead you to ask more intelligent and more thoughtful questions. And I think that that's what I mean by empathetic systems, is that I don't sometimes just want the answer. I want a question that's going to take me to the next level, or I want something that's going to actually take me down the field to the goal line versus just some transaction about something.
being able to show the relationship between the information, that just sounds amazing by itself. Like,
I could nerd out about this, I think, all day long. But I'm gonna reel it back in. This is Gary's job, but I'm gonna do Gary's job today. I'm gonna reel it in. Because our audience specifically wants to talk about business, right? So I want to back up for a second and see where you are. Where is Cymantix in terms of a business? Are you profitable? Are you living off of a runway of some sort? Are you living off of investment? Where are you guys at in that world?
We're living off of a runway, and we're living off of investment right now. We've hyper-focused on the defense and intelligence space. And we're still in the process of saying that, we've got really awesome platforms and we've got really awesome tools, but we know they could be better. And so how do we sort of use the dollars coming in to feed that R&D stream to make things the best that they can be? And we've got big dreams and we've got big goals of how to reimagine how people retrieve and interact with information. But we have a lot of development to do before we can really get there. We've got some key clients, and we've been doing a lot of work with integrating our systems into others' systems, which has been really just such a great learning opportunity. And also, I think that some of this, right, is that what I've learned in business is that we have our ideas and we have the things that we want to build, and we feel like we've really hit a market and solving a problem that people really have. But sometimes what business is about is also solving a problem that people are telling you that they have, right? So if someone just needs a searchable database, let's go try and build that for them and then layer our technology on top. And so a lot of it is sort of figuring out what problems does our technology really immediately solve, and then what problems can we as a company help solve?
So you guys have one of the things that I have said about our own company is, almost every business needs what we do in some capacity, because everybody's a technology business in some way, shape, or form. But most people don't know that they need us or someone like us. I would imagine you are in the same boat. I mean, everyone is overwhelmed by the amount of data that's thrown at them every day, but no one has any clue that there's a solve for that, right? So are you guys to the point where, if you've listened to the show at all much, I use the term slog, which is where you're just yelling at everybody to try to make them pay attention to you, versus you have gravity and they're coming to you because they understand that you have a solution. Are you guys in the slog right now where you're trying to convince people that, yes, in fact, you do need us? And people are like, yes, I do. Or are you to the point where they're like, hey, I'm overwhelmed. Can you guys help?
I think it's both. And I'll caveat that by saying, I think initially I would say 99% of our interactions, it's the slog. But I think once we get our foot in the door, it becomes one of those very clear things. Like, we actually have made people's lives easier. And then they come to us and they're like, no, let's keep going. Like, what else? So, so I think it's a little bit of both, but I would say that, we're small. We're really like a year and a half, maybe a year, 7 months old. So it's still the moment of time where we're just trying to get out there and get, like, just saying, like, raising our hand saying we're here and we think we can we can help.
So the slog is a difficult time, but you guys sounds like you're on the cusp of maybe getting through it. We talk about all the time is, hey, if you are in the slog and you're not passionate about your idea, then you're not going to make it through the slog. And clearly your passion's there. That is not even in doubt. That comes through very clearly. But it's still hard, right? It doesn't make that any easier. No one cares about your baby, and you've got this cool baby that everyone should see and everyone should buy and throw money at you. And you have to convince them. You're the founder. You're the guy, gal. But I guess both of you are doing this. Where you have to explain to them why you need that. And that is hard work. You probably need a nap. And so, I feel you.
Now, are you in the stage where you're trying to create a larger network of potential clients through like referrals and word of mouth of existing clients? Or are you kind of building like a hit list of potential clients that you need to go after?
It's all of it. I mean, it's just a hustle, right? It's everything. It's, yes, we definitely want that snowball effect of, if you like us, you like what we do, we're helping you out, refer us, and that's been happening, which is really wonderful. But then it's also absolutely the hit list, right? It's I really want to work with this company or these people, because we're still in the zone where that customer and user feedback is everything, right? Like, that's just everything. That's going to help us build the best products that we can build. And so the more that we can get at that, through different perspectives, through different organizations, different teams, that to me is really high priority.
It reminds me of a company we used to work with a long time ago. They were a marketing firm, and you said hit list. This is what sparked my memory. They had this idea. There were 50 companies that they wanted to work with. And so the CEO had this idea that I'm going to make just this crazy pitch to them. It was a box full of basically swag, and it was I think each box was something like $400 worth of stuff.
Wow.
And they were like, we're investing in this, and we're going to send it to the CEO of all 50 companies. And it was so cool because everything was super on brand, right? It was beautifully done. And it was really well packaged, and it just screamed, this is our brand. This is what we do. You should use us. And they sent it out. And I think, I'm trying to remember, like, of course, some don't ever get there, and some get lost, or never. The office manager just kicks it off to the side, whatever, keeps it for themselves. But I think they got 10 of those 50 clients from this effort, and they found it to be wildly successful. And I believe they did it again, like a couple of years later. But I just thought that was I'd never heard of anybody that's balls out.
Yeah.
Just, spending a lot of money to get those clients. Like, we know who we want. These are who we want. And they got some of them. And that was, I thought, just super cool. And sorry, it just reminded me when you're saying, yeah, we know who we want to work with. It just kind of gave me that memory there.
That's awesome.
It is we talk to startups and founders and CEOs all the time. And some are on fire. Some are done. Some are crying themselves asleep as they go through the slog. And it's refreshing to hear your passion and your love for this. And it's such a unique idea. It makes sense, but I never would have thought about it beforehand. Does that make sense? I'm sure you hear that all the time.
Yeah.
It's such a cool idea. And it's like, where's this been?
Yeah. The way you've explained like the benefits of this technology, like I can see that fitting into so many different practical applications and industries. Like, that's really unique. And if you get it to work the way it's supposed to work for just a couple key clients, that's definitely going to get the ball rolling for sure. I'm
curious though, if the new AI, like I'm thinking of the Bing bot that we were talking about before. The Bing search bot, I think, is officially its name. It doesn't matter. I'm in that beta, so I've been playing around with it. And like today, so I've been looking at the Corvette C8, and it's a pipe dream. It's a gorgeous car, but I've been looking at it, and I have a Camaro right now. And nice. I did a search today, and I was like, what are the dimensions of a C8? This is what I typed. What are the dimensions between a C8 and a Camaro, 2017 Camaro? That's my car. And it did a search and did another search, put those together, and created a little table for me. So it sounds kind of like what you're talking about. It's grabbing sources from all over the place and then condensing it into an insert that, here you go. I didn't have to because I was planning, I'm going to go do a search for this thing. I'm going to do a search for this thing, and I'm going to do it the way I've been doing it forever. But I was like, well, why don't I play with this Bing bot? I haven't really done a whole lot with it. And it did exactly that. And is that similar to what you're doing? And if so, are you threatened by all of this new fanciness that's coming down the pipe?
Well, that's a great question. And so at a high level, yes, what you're saying is exactly what we want to do and that what we're actively doing. However, the main difference in my mind is to me, the search capability, especially like if we're talking about the Bing bot or ChatGPT, you're casting a wide net on the whole internet. And that's really cool. And there's a lot of use cases for that. And I absolutely see a day when we're actually plugging the API of ChatGPT into our services for summarization, for all of these things that could really be of value to our user. The difference in what Cymantix is really going after is I'm not going after the person who's like, I want to write a paper on Charles Dickens, or I want to sort of get a generalized understanding of some topic. I'm very much more interested in domain specific complex problems. So when I'm talking about my user, I'm talking about the Intel analyst. I'm talking about somebody who is like, I'm not just interested in what's going on the internet. I'm actually wanting to plug in all of my transcribed meetings, all of my internal notes, all of my very specific space domain awareness information, and make meaning out of all of that so that I can embrace and understand the complexity of my information as it relates to ecosystem information. But it's a lot more domain specific than it is this sort of general, I want World War II history. And so
Gotcha.
I'm not as much threatened because, my background is psychology and behavioral economics. And so I'm always of the mind that it's much easier to ride a wave than create one. And I would love to ride the wave of ChatGPT within our product. But we're just going after different things. We're trying to help different people solve different problems.
Nice. Okay. I think, Gary, we've come to that time.
Well, you said you guys are about a year and a half, year and 7 or so months in so far. So the one question we ask everybody, and I'm sure these are going to be fresh on your list right now because you're right in the middle of it. What are the top 3 pieces of advice that you would give an entrepreneur, new business, or a startup when they begin in their journey?
Ooh. All right, this is tough. I'm going to speak from an angle of just being a CEO, doing a lot of like internal organizational building right now. We're going through a space of organizational change. So I guess the first piece that I would say is that for any entrepreneur, especially one that's trying to build an organization around a cool product or around services, I think that as a leader, I'm learning that there's kind of this space between stimulus and response. And that's where your power is. I think that as a leader, I've had to learn that self-regulation and how you self-regulate your reactions is really important as you're trying to set a culture and trying to set a climate within your company. You don't want to be sort of overly worried in a crisis. You don't want to necessarily go overly worried or overly passionate when something really good happens. You want to be able to be thoughtful about your responses whenever there's sort of a stimulus that's occurring. So I think that that's one of the things that I'm trying to get better at. I think the other piece would be I've learned that progress really goes at the pace of trust, both with your clients and with the people that you hire in your organization. Building trust is really important, and you can't really move forward in a really productive way without having that foundation of trust. Let's see. I think the last one that I've felt really deeply lately is that, there's always the complexity horizon. There's always like you look far enough ahead and things feel really daunting and it feels really fuzzy and you can't really do anything about that chaos. Except I think you can really intentionally back people who can handle it and back the ones and hire the ones and partner with the ones that are comfortable being uncomfortable and looking out at that complexity horizon. So those are the 3 things that I keep telling myself lately as I'm trying to build a company.
Well, you approached that question from a completely new perspective, and that was awesome to hear.
I'm going to start saying the words empathetic systems and complexity horizon as much as I possibly can. I'm going to add that.
You should, and just drop in like drones and like, maybe Bitcoin and synergistic synergy. Yeah.
Well, English, anybody who has been curious about what you do as much as now I'm going to be, they could check you out on your website, which is Cymantix. It's Cymantix. And is there any other way that you would like people to reach out and get in touch with you guys or learn more about your business?
On LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. We also we have an Instagram account. Cymantix does. We have an amazing designer and head of human experience who puts really cool stuff on Instagram. So check it out.
Shout out to your designer for sure. Yeah, we will put those links in our show notes as well.
Perfect. Awesome.
And as always, if anybody wants to get in touch with us, they can leave a comment underneath this video, or they can email us at hello@thebigpixel.net, or also reach out to us on any of our social media channels.
With that, thank you so much for joining us. This has been very, very cool. And I have learned so much that my brain is now a complexity horizon. Hey, see what I did there?
Excellent.
And thank you.
Thank you.
But thank you again for joining us. This has been a lot of fun. I appreciate it very much.
Awesome. Thank you guys. This has been great. I hope to come back.
All right. It was super nice meeting you, and we'll see everybody next week.